Okay, so if you can hear me okay, I cleaned this off earlier today, and now I'm just doing the test. And so with these vintage finishes, I find what works really well is the Bacco scraper. This is the big one, the ergonomic knob. I try to keep it as flat as possible, meaning this. I try to take things off with the middle. I try and stay away from the edges so it doesn't go in, twist, and scratch the finish. Um, as you can see, this is probably shellac or lacquer, and then this is a Heywood Wakefield, and I thought it might be birch, but this is probably maple, so it's as hard as a cutting board, which means it's a nice surface to really put some weight on the scraper. And you're going to really see that in these areas. Where you can just go pretty much all the way across the top. So I like to angle the scraper too. I think I'm in frame. So let me show you. Instead of going straight, I give it a little twist. And then to hold on for just a second, the tree that these boards came out of stood straight up like this. And so the grain, the fibers were running this way. Now they're laying flat on the top of this. If I go this way and scratch it, I'm going to get these really crazy deep scratches because I'm ripping up the fibers in the top. If I go this way, it actually rides on the fibers, and that actually helps support the scraper and doesn't leave big goofy looking scratches. So you're going to see me zip along pretty fearlessly, and it's because I know that going with the grain, when I go with the grain, it's not going to bite in and surprise me. Unless I'm not holding the scraper properly or doing something weird with it. But if I go straight, it works okay. If I angle it a little bit, though, it gives me what's kind of known as a shear cut. And so the blade slides along, and then it kind of slices underneath rather than kind of acting as a brake, kind of biting in and stopping. If it goes this way, so this is straight, that's getting stuck. If it goes this way, it kind of slides along and shears off the material. That just means less resistance and gives me a little cleaner cut. You will see me kind of go side to side on these edges, but I do it very, very gently, very slowly. And so I'm going to do this by hand. It's going pretty well. I'm going to do this by hand, and the reason I'm doing it by hand is because the shellac will probably come off with a power sander, but the problem is that the shellac will melt, and it's a very soft finish. But it will have a tendency to melt, gum up, and then clog your power sanding paper, and it will gum up. it will gum up in a hurry and you'll be trashing a lot of paper. But if you take the shellac off with a scraper, and you can get scrapers with different profiles. There's cards and other ones. Let's see, actually, this is my Harbor Freight special. It comes with 4 blades with different ends. And so I actually have a profile on here. It's going to let me go around these rounded edges. Now keep in mind, this is cutting across the end of the grain. So if you go too hard this way, maple's pretty tough. So I'm just lightly dragging it. It's working pretty well. But if you go too hard in this direction, what you're going to do is you're going to actually just tear the wood apart on the ends. It tends not to be held together very well because over time the moisture, like if it loses the finish, the moisture is going to cause it to expand and contract, and the connection between these fibers out here is going to just kind of fall apart. And so anyways, this is about as much as I can do on this without taking the drawers off or flipping it on its side. But the plan from here is to power sand it. That's the nice thing about Heywood Wakefield. They solid maple. And so I can just put on about an 80 grit disc, I think, just run over the top and take out all these stains, burns, and scratches. And nobody's going to know once I just kind of feather the edge with a, I don't know, like probably a 220 grit. I'm going to just hand sand it. But once I take this off, or just kind of round it over, it's going to look like new on top. And I'm not going to do the yellow. I kind of hate the yellow. I mean, if it's in good shape, it's okay. I mean, I like the vintage look. But they used wood in these old dressers from these forests we'll never see again. We probably shouldn't see again. They need to be making oxygen. But as far as furniture goes, there is some amazing lumber that went into these old furniture pieces. And I just want to reveal it. I want to show it off. If it looks silly because it's got so much grain, I don't care. A lot of the idea, I think, behind some of this transparent paint look, because you can still see the grain, but it's muted because of the finish, is that I think they just wanted to take some of that wild character out of the wood. And I have a tendency of setting it free. And I call them the feral mid-century modern pieces. I have this one. I had another Heywood Wakefield that was solid wood, and it was pretty bold looking. Had a lot of character, let's say, and just cut it loose. And then I had a Paul Macabre where they did a brown tone over a walnut to even it out, and I took that off, and the grain really popped through, and it became a beautiful dresser in a totally different way. So, so this for profiles. Maybe we'll do a zoom in so you can see how it's working on the corners. Otherwise, the big Bacco, I think that's the 665. I love that guy for big open spaces like this because it does a nice job in a hurry. Okay, so I didn't look around for the perfect profile. I'm just kind of going with what I had on the holder. But with light pressure, I just need to get the bulk of it to come loose. And I don't want to scratch up the wood itself too badly. But a lot of this will come loose when I come rolling in with the power sander. Oops. But anyways, that gives you the idea. Just go gently. And that finish just cracks right off. Very little effort. Take your time, be careful. Okay, as you can see, you may wonder, hey, John, why don't you just keep this thing standing up and see what happens with the Bacco? And I thought, hey, you know what? You're right. I should try it. And so this is what happens. It comes off pretty easily. They sell 2 versions of this scraper, and I recommend the knob because you can get out here on the end of it for leverage, and then you get your hand, just put your palm on it. You don't really have to grab it, and just keep that pressure flat. Just keep that blade on the surface, and just don't let it rock is the most important thing, so these corners don't come in and give you a big scratch. But yeah, that just a few minutes worth of work, and you'll see how quickly it takes it down to where it just needs a light sanding to get a new finish on there. So anyways, yeah, this continues to be one of my favorite tools and continues to impress me just about every time I use it. Okay, for people that want a demonstration in real time of what this thing can do, I'm just going to get it started here and carefully try not to wreck the fibers. This is actually past the side panel, the top. But here, if I hook it, I'm going to rip this whole edge. And so if I pull it up, it will scrape beyond the top, but not catch it. And that'll give me a place to start. A little bit more here. Probably should have had a clock or a timer or something to show this. This is the fussy part. This is just making sure I can get a good start. And what I mean by that is that I can really leverage this knob. Kind of clean up this edge here. Normally I'd wear a dust mask, but I don't think you'd be able to understand me if I did. All right, so here I kind of go a little bit on my side, gently, slowly. I'm actually pinching the head up here, and I'm keeping it from traveling too quickly. Might clear that out. Same thing down here. I've got it angled for scraping. Okay, ready for the show? One thing I should mention is that this is a carbide blade. You can get this off Amazon. You can get it at maybe Rockler. Amazon had a crazy deal on it. It sounded like 30 bucks. Or maybe I just got lucky when I bought it. But I went with the 2.5-inch wide blade because it's better for these large surface projects. But the carbide blade is a lot harder than steel, and it just cuts differently. And I think it's actually getting kind of dull, but still useful. So I'm going to change this angle down a little bit. So you can see where I'm at. I really should just flip this on its side, especially after a big lunch. But I have to go walk the dog. So I'd like to get this maybe to where I can power sand it. And put it away for the night. It also continues to be about 30 degrees where I am. And then there is, like here, I'll mention there is a little bit of a hook here. So that helps in terms of lifting it on this cut. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The shellac, or whatever the paint finish, the transparent tinted finish in either shellac or lacquer, one of the two. That's pretty much gone. I have some curved scrapers. You can't see that. I'm just touching this up here. I have some curved scrapers down in the basement, card scrapers, not the ones I showed you earlier, that will do a nice job giving me a little bit cleaner corner, but most of it's gone. So you can see for yourself, you know, probably about 10 minutes of power sanding on this whole thing, all three sides, and it'll be ready to go. Any questions? Just feel free to post a comment. Just going to show these off real quick. These are the handles that came off the drawers. I have them marked with, this is A, so that goes on the top. There's an arrow that shows the orientation of how I was originally up there. They're really dirty. That's just grime. And so I'm going to scrub these down. I don't want that in my finish. Anyways, I'm going to put these in the bathtub with some degreaser, scrub them down, and rinse them off under the faucet. So that is that part. And then over here, I'm going to resituate the camera. I already just went along with this guy and just scraped these drawers. And what I'm going to say, what I'm going to say is that you have to be careful. The scraper works really well to the extent that it can on a really dry finish, and it pops loose. Down at the bottom and areas on the side panels of the dresser, don't be surprised if the shellac is in much better shape and you hit it and it's like hitting, I don't know, like stepping on wet paint or epoxy line paint in a parking lot in the rain, or something else really slippery, I don't know, like a wet piece of plastic, and you step on it and you just go. Good old shellac, like these parts tend to get more UV exposure, more air, more moisture, more whatever. But down at the bottom or on the sides where the dresser finish was more protected, it's going to be probably a little thicker, probably hasn't lost some of the finish, and it's going to be tougher. And so when you hit it, you're going to hear a sound. You know, you're going to hear this kind of crispy sound when you're cutting the old stuff and it's popping loose. But you're going to just kind of get maybe a half or a third the amount of noise, and it's just not going to want to come off. And you can use more pressure, but you want to go very slow, and you want to make sure you get some leverage. Also, you know, brace up. I'm just doing this right in the dresser because it's helping hold the drawers in place. But, you know, if you take them out and work on them, make sure you're not pushing so hard that you break your drawer. So anyways, hope this is helpful for you. Again, you got any questions, post me a comment. And yeah, we'll try and get the skeleton out of the foot next time. Okay, so what I did was I ran through the dresser drawers here and just scraped them off while they were sitting in the dresser. The weather's not going to get any warmer on me, and it's going to get dark. But I just wanted to mention the finishes, when it comes to the old MCM finishes, what I find is that the shellac or the finish on the bottom tends to be in much better shape than up top. The top of the dresser tends to get more UV, more sunlight, more handling, more moisture, more whatever. And then down at the bottom where the dresser just didn't get handled, didn't get touched, didn't get as much light on it, it tends to be a lot tougher. And so it will come off. We have to go slow and be very deliberate about it. And you want to listen, because up here, you're going to hear it popping loose. It's going to give you kind of a rougher sound. But then down here, it's going to be about half the amount of noise, which means that it's holding itself together better. And it's going to be like hitting a patch of ice. For people in climates to know what that's like. But it's going to be a kind of a lot slicker. And you want to be careful you don't make mistakes with your scraper. And so you want to slow it down. And if you take the drawer out to scrape it, make sure you support it so you don't break your drawer while you're scraping the finish off. So anyways, hope that helps.